Hi, today now we are going to do SQL. SQL is the stands for Structured Query Language. What are the outlines we are going to see in as SQL is definition, rules, SQL process, characteristic of SQL and advantages of SQL, SQL data type, SQL command, SQL operator, table, views in SQL and aggregate function. Definitions for SQL. The SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is used for storing and managing the data in relational database management system. It is standard language for relational database system. It enables a user to create, read, update and delete relational database and tables. All the RDBMS like MySQL, Informers, Oracle, MS Access and SQL. The server used in SQL as the standard database language. It can allow the user to query the database in a number of ways using the English-like statement. The rules of the SQL. The structured query language is not the case sensitive. The keywords of SQLs are written in uppercase. The statement of SQL are dependent on text line. We can use a single SQL statement on one or multiple text line. Using the SQL statement, we can perform most of actions in a database. SQL depends on the tuple relational calculus and the relational algebra. SQL process. When an SQL command is executing for any RDBMS, then any system figure out the best way to carry out the request and SQL engine determines that how to interrupt the task. In the process, various components are included. These components can optimization engine, query dispatcher, classic, etc. All the non-SQL queries are handled by the classic query engine, but SQL query engine won't handle the logical files. These are the figure for used for the SQL query. From SQL query, the data can be transferred into the query language processor and it can be transferred the data in DBMS engine, and finally it can be stored the data in the physical database. The parser plus optimizer is a query language processor. The file manager plus transaction manager is a DBMS engine. Characteristics of SQL. The SQL is easy to learn. It is easy to access the data from relational database system. It can execute the queries against the database. It is used to describe the data. It is used to define the data in the database and manipulate it when needed. It is used to create and drop the database and table. It is used to create a view, stored procedure, function in a database. It allows user to set permission on table, procedures and views. Advantages of SQL. It is high speed. That means using the SQL queries, the user can quickly, efficiently retrieve the large amount of records from a database. No coding needed. In the standard SQL, it is very easy to manage the database system. It doesn't require the substantial amount of code to manage the database system. It is a well-defined standard. That means long established or used by the SQL database that are being used by the ISO and ANSI. That means ANSI. Portability. It can be used in laptop, PC, personal computer, server and even some mobile phones. Interactive language. It is a domain language used to communicate with the database. It is also used to receive the answer to the complex question in seconds. Multiple data view. Using the SQL language, the user can make the different view of the database structure. Next is the SQL data type. It is used to define the values that a column can contain. Every column is required to have a name and data type in the database table. Data type of the SQL is binary data type, numeric data type, extract numeric data type, string data type and data type. SQL commands. The commands or the instruction. It is used to communicate with the database. It is also used to perform the specific tasks, functions and queries of the data. It can perform various tasks like create a table, add data to tables, drop the table, modify the table, set permission for user. Types of SQL commands: DDL, data definition language; DML, data manipulation language; DCL, data control language; TCL, transaction control language; DQL, data query language; DTL. It changes the structure of the table like creating, deleting, altering a table, etc. Here we are going to use some commands for the DDL, that is create, drop, alter and truncate. DML. It also used to modify the database. It is responsible for all the form of changes in a data type. Here also we are going to use some commands. What are the commands? Insert, update and delete. DCL. DCL commands are used to grant and take back authority from the database user, that is grant and revoke. TCL. It can only used with the DML commands like insert, delete and update only. Some commands we are going to use. What are this? Commit, rollback and save point. DQL. DQL is used to fetch the data from database, that is select. Next we are going to see about the SQL operator, arithmetic operator, compression operator and logical operator. SQL table. It is a collection of data which is organized in the terms of rows and columns. In RDBMS, the table is known as the relational and row as the tuple. Table is the simple form of data storage. A table is also considered as the convenient representation of relations. Views in SQL. The views in SQL are considered as a virtual table. The view also contains the rows and columns. To create the view, we can select the field from one or more tables present in the database. A view can either have specific rows based on the certain condition or all the rows of the column. Next is aggregate function. Aggregate function is used to perform the collection on multiple rows of a single row column of the table. It returns the single value. It is used to summarize the data. Types of aggregate function: count, sum, average, max and minimum. Thank you.